Leo listeners. Cara here from Leo Listening, where I help advanced English learners fall back in love with their favourite films and TV shows by teaching them how to break free from the subtitles. So in the last few videos, blog posts, however you're consuming this, I've been talking about just some listening fundamentals, listening myths, issues that we all need to get over if we're going to improve our listening. And so, this is obviously relevant to getting rid of subtitles, but it works for anything that you want to understand, really. Whether it's native speakers, TED Talks, conference calls, whatever it is that you're interested in. So one of the issues I'm addressing today is vocabulary, because I kind of get the impression there's a real obsession with vocabulary, and there's a lot of blame surrounding vocabulary in relation to listening skills, because I see people saying, well, I don't understand because I haven't got enough vocabulary. And I'm not saying it's never a problem. That would be unfair. So, when you're a beginner in a language, or, in the early stages, you don't really have enough vocabulary or grammatical structure. So what's going to happen at that stage of learning is you'll hear things and you can't match them up with a word or structure because you don't know it. You haven't seen it yet. You haven't learned it yet. So, that's normal. Obviously, you can't be expected to understand something that you've never seen or heard before, right? Later on, once you've kind of consolidated your vocabulary and grammar, you start to encounter a different problem. So you'll hear the words, expressions, grammatical structures in speech that that you've learned, but you can't match them to a meaning because you don't recognize them. And that's because you don't know how they really sound. So what I'm saying is, what you've heard, it. It's a word, a phrase, a structure, but you can't match it to the knowledge in your brain because it didn't sound the way you expected it to. The pronunciation was different in some way to what you're used to or what you were expecting. This tends to happen with, it's a bit annoying actually, it happens with very common words, like the 100 most common words in English. So these are words like articles, pronouns, auxiliary verbs. And the thing with these words is they usually have two forms, a weak form and a strong form. And it's actually the weak one that's the most common. So what happens here with these weak forms is the vowel in the word becomes a schwa. So a schwa is a specific type of vowel sound. It's a kind of sound. It sounds like, the noise you make when you get punched in the stomach. That's a schwa. So if you use a good online dictionary, I really like the Macmillan Dictionary. That dictionary lets you listen to the weak and the strong pronunciation of these common grammatical words. So that way you can kind of compare how they sound, how they differ. And I'll link to an example under the video, don't worry. So, the reality in fast speech is a little bit more complicated than there's just one weak form and one strong form, but you get the idea. The main idea is that some words sound different in speech, right? And it's not just grammatical words, the articles, the pronouns, the auxiliaries. Entire words and phrases you already know can sound different, and this is the idea of connected speech. So, you probably know that going to, for talking about the future, becomes gonna, right? This is connected speech. The idea here is that there are sounds that disappear from going to, and then sounds that join together, and it makes gonna, right? Or want to, which becomes wanna, because we get rid of some T sounds and then we join everything together. But there are tons and tons of other examples of connected speech. So words ending in T or D usually lose the T or D sound at the end, especially in British English. So that can change really common words. So a word like that is going to sound like that. Want sounds like want, and so on, right? Pronouns starting with the word H, lose the H sound. So the classic example that nobody can ever catch is he busy? Is he busy? Is he busy? So the H sound disappears off he, and then there's linking between the Z sound in is and the vowel that's left, right? Questions can change a lot. So a question like, do you want to, sounds like, do you wanna? What do you need becomes what do you need? There are also words that join together, like words and expressions. So for example, isn't it awful? Isn't it awful? So we get links between the consonants at the end of words and the vowels in the following words. Or another example is we add certain sounds in order to make these links. So for instance, when you say go out, you add a little w sound to make it easier to join together the vowels in the two words. Another example of a sound that we add is in an expression like I agree, I agree. We add a little y sound to make the link between the two vowels, and this just makes it easier for us to pronounce, and that's what we're interested in ultimately, is making our lives as easy as possible when we speak, because speaking takes a lot of effort and we want to make things easy. So how can you start noticing these patterns and developing your awareness of how the words you already know really sound? So I've got a blog post on that takes you through all the examples of weak forms and different types of connected speech with recordings, so you can actually listen to how everything sounds. The other thing you can do, this is a really key principle in improving your listening, is to use some kind of like text or transcript. So a transcription of what you're listening to, subtitles of what you're listening to. So this is how you can kind of notice what's going on if you're smart about it. So you can just read and listen at the same time, and then that way you're going to make links between the written form of words and how they sound in speech. Or, and this is more effective, you can take a short section from what you've listened to, a short section that you found difficult to catch, listen to it a couple of times, write out what you hear, and then when you're ready, compare what you wrote with the transcript or with the subtitles. And that's where you start to see, okay, so I missed this because there were links between the sounds, or this sound disappeared and I didn't know that, I wasn't expecting it. Also, if you want to practice your listening and your pronunciation together, you can do a shadow reading. So I've got a video all about how to do shadow readings. It's useful to have a text for those too. And you can also use my little product, the Leo Listening Log, to plan, track and reflect on your listening. And I've got space on there for, you know, writing out your dictations, reflecting on what you missed, what's new, what changed, etc., etc. And I'm going to link to some other resources, either on my blog or other people's blogs and websites, that are going to help you to learn how the words you already know really sound, and stop obsessing about new vocabulary, because it's not as much of an issue as you think it is in listening. All right, thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.